Morning, everyone. I was a little bit gobsmacked to realise this morning that I completely neglected to do a weekly video last week. And I don't know why. I mean, to be fair, this week has been interesting. I've been fighting off a migraine for days now. maybe it's the fighting off that's trying to cause the migraine. I don't know. Anywho, so what I thought we would do is we would do a little what's this little post-mortem on what exactly it is that's happened this week. And then, as usual, we will look at the week coming up, which, let me have a look and see what that will be from the 10th to the 16th of March. So, obviously, next week, I'll talk about this a little bit more in a moment, there are a couple of things that are happening in the coming week. That are going to be significant in terms of amping up the intensity, the surreality, and just about everything else, right? So if it feels intense now, just buckle up. So what we're going to do is we will go 5, 4, 3, 2, fuck's sake, and 1, and we're going to ask, what the fuck happened this week? Not just with me, but I mean just generally, what the fuck was going on this week? That card is the Ten of Pentacles. Very interesting. And then, oh, you can't even see that. Let's pop it across like that. Maybe we'll do the cards going this way for a change. And then what can we expect for the energies of the 10 to the 16th of March? One more. Nine of Wands. Interesting. I say it's interesting because last night my partner put on a documentary that was all about Charles Manson, and literally within the first few seconds of it, I'm like, this is a serialization of the book that I read last year. I can't even remember what it was called. But it was all about the kind of dark side of the hippie movement and how they were actually experimenting on hippies with MK Ultra techniques, and this is what gave rise to Manson and all this kind of thing, which was quite cool. It was like an overview of the book that I read. So we have the Chariot being the card that is at the bottom of the deck there. Now, being as we're kind of talking about both this week that we're currently in and also this week that's coming up, which looks to me like it's going to be trippy as fuck, if I can put it that way. I feel like the Chariot actually refers to both. But we'll get into what it is in a moment. So the only other thing that I want to do, actually, we'll leave the oracle cards for a second. Let's get some cards out on the table, and we'll get some clarifiers for both weeks, deconstructing and looking ahead. So tell me about the Ten of Pentacles, please. What the fuck happened this week? Right, so we have the Ace of Swords on its side. I don't think that's going to surprise anyone. Let's have a look. We also have the King of Cups. That's Scorpio energy there. And one more card for what just happened. That's 2. Away. Right, 4 of Swords and the 5 of Pentacles. Right, very interesting. Feels like an either or is the experience that people have had this week. Let's just look ahead to next week. Get some clarifiers for the Nine of Wands, please. Wow. Tower reversed is a very interesting card. I'm just going to shut the window because it seems like my partner's doing a bit of hoovering. The Virgo ascendant, it doesn't stop hoovering ever. Anyway, I have this. Thank you. We have also the Queen of Cups. Interesting, because we have the King over here, and we also have the King of Wands. Right, this seems to be moving. Moving. It's kind of moving, kind of not. I feel like next week is moving in a way that we don't expect. But before we get to that, I'll pop this Seven of Swords that's at the bottom of the deck there to the side. Let's have a look and see what it is that has fucking happened this week, because I don't know about you, but I've found it to be a lot. Now, the Ten of Pentacles is a card that represents a number of things, right? We can be talking about business, we can be talking about home, we can be talking about your family situation. We can talk about heritage and legacy, and you know what even we understand by those things, which is quite an interesting kind of sociological take on the state of the world right now. I'm thinking about, you know, in terms of what am I thinking about? In terms of things like the sins of the father, can we put it that way, right? Stuff that's happened historically, and then the rectification that certain people are seeking for that. Instabilities in societal hierarchical structures that people are looking to set straight. Right? We can see all of those things. We're also looking at the idea of stability and security with the Ten of Pentacles. We're also looking at things like wealth and money and where it is distributed, like who it is benefiting. Let's see what it says on here. Oh, this is about the levelers. Amazing. Interesting. Okay. So bearing in mind all of those things, you may have found your week dominated by issues of business, issues of home, issues of family, issues of these sorts of things in a very micro sense in terms of what you are dealing with personally. But if your attention has been outward, you might have recognized these themes showing up around the world in terms of where the structures are, where the stability is, where the security is, all this kind of thing. And what's really, really interesting is we have this Ace of Swords on its side. Now, this is an energy of a lack of clarity, frankly. I mean, what we don't have is outright deception, because we would expect to see the Ace of Swords there, but neither do we have an emergent truth that is kind of shining like a beacon above everything. The fact is, nobody fucking knows. And in some way or another, this is kind of restating something that I said in a video for a few weeks ago. Like, nobody fucking knows what's going on right now. And anybody who claims to know what is going on right now, quite frankly, is either deluded or, extremely mistaken, because I think there's the opportunity for some extreme whiplash this month, in one way or another, because there are so many things going on, and it's going on against a backdrop which is already exceedingly complex, unnecessarily complex, one might say, and incredibly obfuscated, right? So I'm sure all sides of all debates assume that they are working with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But the reality is, I don't think anybody can really claim that moniker. And so I feel like the people who have found their way to navigating this week a little easier are those who have been looking very deliberately for their own peace, right? Non-engagement, diverting their attention to where it's actually needed. And we're definitely talking about things that are occurring in your day-to-day life on the micro level, rather than being a little bit too, as my partner would say, like having a deaky at what's going on outside of us. Because the Four of Swords is about mental peace. It's about taking a break, taking a step back. I know for quite a few signs in the March readings, I had advocated for complete withdrawal from engagement with social media, doom scrolling, trying to keep up with the news and all that kind of thing, because the twists and turns are happening so rapidly that it's having a very real effect on people's immune systems, on people's brain chemistry, quite frankly. And the best way we have to counteract that is to, quite literally, as the kids say, get out there and touch grass, right? I've said, use your hands. Go do things that soothe your nervous system. Do not engage with things that, even on a very, very low level, prime your nervous system for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, which is essentially what doom scrolling is, right? Because what I think that we have here is the appearance of stability, but the reality of something actually quite chaotic and really quite unstable. And I think that the further you step away from it, the less stable it looks, right? Which is why the focus needs to be shifted on what is yours to do and what soothes your nervous system, makes your soul feel better. I've been eyeballing my vegetable garden quite fucking hard. I can't get out there yet though because I've got too much work to do. But the weather's turned and it's absolutely beautiful. And if I didn't have any internet, I wouldn't know that there was anything wrong with the world at all. And that's really the state that we should have been trying to achieve for ourselves this week. If you haven't quite managed it, doesn't mean that everything's fucked. It means just give it a go, right? Turn your phone off or put your phone in another room and just do something else. Definitely think about doing something that uses your hands. Tell me about this Five of Pentacles, please. Ooh, Strength card in reverse. That's pretty serious. What we've got is a disempowerment going on here. And we've got the Three of Swords in reverse. That's really interesting because there's the King of Cups again. I mean, what this is saying to me is that everything is nowhere near as fucked as we would lead ourselves to believe. Right? It's the disempowerment that comes from this it's a disempowered state that we achieve when we are looking consistently for information that either confirms or contradicts our idea that things are unstable right now. I think for the most part, everybody can agree that that is a thing that's going on. But look out of your window, go outside. Are you seeing the evidence for these things in your immediate environment? I would say, for the most part, the answer is no. Now, obviously, there's going to be people for whom that isn't correct. And actually, yes, they can see the breakdown and decay of things that are going on outside of themselves. But this strength of emotion, being disciplined around the idea of our emotions, incredibly important this week, but incredibly important moving forwards, right the way through the rest of March and definitely into April. To be honest, I think it's the kind of attitude that really we need to be taking for the rest of 2025. It's that emotional stability by guarding our peace, knowing when to take a break, knowing when to step back. And don't forget that every social media platform out there has been programmed with an algorithm to keep you fucking scrolling, to keep you locked in to whatever it is that is showing up on your feed. Again, Meta and, Reptile King himself, Zuckerberg, admitted that they were manipulating people's emotions through the algorithm, what they chose to put to the top of the feed and what they didn't. To be alive in 2025 is to be subject almost consistently to 27 different psyops. And you don't have to play that game. That's what this is saying to me here. It's interesting that we have the Chariot at the bottom of the deck here, and I said I did feel like it kind of related to both weeks. The Chariot is a card of forward movement. But more than that, it's a card of self-discipline, self-motivation, self-orientation. It's about being not oblivious, but kind of blinkered about what the rest of the world may be shrieking about, and focusing on our own goals and our own mental, emotional and spiritual well-being. So if you managed to pull this off this week, props to you. This is really, really good stuff. If you didn't, like I said, it's not like everything's fucked. It's just, this takes a little bit of effort. That tiny little dopamine hit that we get every time we see some sort of new post, that's programmed to get that response out of you. And the worst thing that you could do, I think, in my opinion, is allow your attention to be captured by it. It is the thief of peace. I used to call Facebook back in the day the thief of productivity. So that's sort of going back to when I was at university and stuff. You know, it's the ultimate procrastination device, and that was actually when there was anybody left on Facebook. I don't know how many people are actually there anymore. I shut my account down in like 2021 for various reasons. But there are plenty of other platforms to take their place. And they are all the thief of productivity. They are all thieves of peace because they are designed to be so, right? Don't give them what they want, right? This is about control of one's emotions. It's about keeping yourself level, keeping yourself balanced. Anything else? It's definitely not serving your higher good. I've spoken to a few people recently, and my heart goes out to them because you can see their nervous systems are fucking shot. They are literally waiting for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it's because they've been scooped up by the media and social media and the news and all that kind of, like, fuck it all off, all of it. Because whether things are structured and stable or whether they are anything but, you get to decide what your experience of that is. And if your internal stability is where it should be, then whatever is going on out here is kind of irrelevant. Now, I'm trying to move all of these cards out of the way because I want to look at this week now. So we have the Nine of Wands, trippy as fuck. We have the Tower reversed. We have the Queen of Cups, and we have the King of Wands. Now, the reason why I said the Tower reversed is a really interesting energy is because it's given to be a representation of Mars, right? It's that sudden, shocking energy. I feel it has a much more Uranian flavour, to be honest, or maybe some sort of combination of both Mars and Uranus, because Uranus is on and off, and the Tower is generally on and off. Oh, you thought something was one way, Tower falls down, hit by lightning, and then we've got a period of quiet while we seek to rebuild what has been knocked down, right? So when the Tower shows up in reverse, generally speaking, what we're talking about is a block or an obstacle or a delay in some sort of energy that is coming from the universe that is kind of knocking everything over. But the funny thing is, I don't feel like that's the right interpretation of this card right now. So I'm going to pull some clarifiers. I'm going to see why it is that would be the case. Look at this. I managed to get the Waite Smith in Bulgarski, which is cool. Don't worry, I'm not going to start talking Bulgarian at you. But I thought, as you know, a tarot reader who was trying to become fluent in the language, I should be fluent in the language of my job. So here it is. Anywho, tell me about the Tower in reverse, please. I feel like the Tower in reverse is the key to this entire week. I know the overview energy is the Nine of Wands. Whoa. So we have Two of Pentacles. We have the Eight of Cups on its side. Let's have one more, please. And we have the Queen of Pentacles showing up here. Right at the bottom of the deck, we have the Nine of Pentacles. This is about how you manage your resources and everything that we're saying about the week that we have just had. Sorry, somebody's using the bathroom next door. You know, was kind of speaking about the management of your resources without really articulating that out loud, in so much as your attention is the most precious resource you have, and where you choose to put it dictates how well you can cope with the energies of any given week. And you know, I've been talking to a lot of people recently And even for people for whom, you know, disaster hasn't struck, there is still this sense that everything that is going on right now is just a lot. You know, whether it's in their personal lives or whether it's out there on the world stage, it's just like everything's a lot. The energies are incredibly fucking intense. And what concerns me is the possibility that as these energies, which are already a lot, ramp up, that we start to see people really, really starting to struggle with it. And this is why I am banging on over and over again, like, pull yourself out of it. Don't allow yourself to be sucked in. You know, it's even, you know, this kind of idea of being sucked in by the LSD here. Oh, trippy as fuck is the way that I've described this, but it's actually moon in Sagittarius, right? So we have the qualities of the moon, we have emotional stuff, and then we have the sign of Sagittarius, which is, you know, generally speaking, it's associated with freedom and liberation and the being present right here, right now. I'm very, very active, very philosophical sign. But when you get the pair of them together, I think what you've got is the capacity for there to be an emotional ranginess that could work in your favour, or else it might not. You know, Sagittarius is known for taking things to the absolute fucking limit just to see if they can push past it just a little bit more, right? Now, if everybody's having this kind of influence and they are not protecting themselves sufficiently, you know, we've got a 9 here and we've got a 9 here, saying that it's all about the way that you are managing stuff that is important here. So how you're managing your resources, where are they going, but also how are you managing your behaviors? Additionally, how are you managing your subjective experience of being alive in March 2025? What are you choosing to do? Because I guess when we're talking about the active management of whatever suit it's representing, there's a conscious dynamic to that. There's a conscious aspect to it. It's not just letting things work their way out. It's like, well, what are you doing? What are you literally doing to preserve the most precious resource that you have and make sure that you are the one who decides where it gets deployed and not the media or social media or whoever it is out there right now, you know? Because this trippiness that this card is talking about here, I don't know how many of you have ever done acid, right? But it's not... what acid doesn't do is create things in front of you that weren't there. What acid does is is it takes the lines of things that exist and it blurs them and it makes them curl and it makes them wave, and if you unfocus your eyes, then suddenly there's a whole new thing that your brain is perceiving that you didn't see before, right? But if you sharpen up your eyes, which you can, the thing disappears. It's just kind of swirling around in the background. And I feel like this this card is talking about the distortion of the edges of things, which if you allow yourself to unfocus, right, if you allow yourself to be kind of a passive consumer of whatever you are being told to react to at any given point, then this distortion becomes really fucking strong. Like, you can see things that are not there because your mind takes over and it starts looking for patterns in things, and, you know, suddenly it's all, you know, it's something else. It's really important to focus up the eyes and see what is there. It still may twirl and swirl and do all these, you know, kind of interesting things in the periphery of your vision, but it's not totally distorted. Now, I think I did say, you know, there were a couple of important things that were happening this week, and there are. First off, we have a lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo that is happening. God, is that happening on the 14th? I think it is. I wrote down all of the important bits here. Yes, March the 14th, or at least it is in my part of the world where I am, right? If you're elsewhere, it may be occurring on the 13th. You can have a look on a chart and see where it is for you. I think for the most part, for most people, this eclipse is going to be on the 14th. It is my understanding that it cannot be viewed in the UK and it cannot be seen in Europe, but it will be evident across the Americas somewhere, right? Which is interesting. What a lunar eclipse is like a full moon on steroids, right? Some aspect of something is being released this week. And in terms of how we best deal with that, bearing in mind that the North Node obviously is in Pisces and the South Node is in Virgo, what we're letting go of is the need for all the little details to be understood, right? It's the letting go of perfectionism. I think at a time like this, where everything is distorted and weird anyway, we have to accept that we're probably not seeing the big picture. And it really does feel like we need to pull into ourselves a little bit this week. I'm not saying withdraw from friends and family and all that kind of thing, but I would be absolutely shutting down in the nicest way possible anybody who claims to have an answer for something. Oh, this is proof of this and this is proof of that and this is proof of the other. Because again, like, none of us fucking know. And there's quite an interesting distinction between Pisces and Virgo straight off the bat, right? I feel it unlikely that Virgo would feel as comfortable in saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't have the answer, than Pisces would be. How important is it to have the answer right now? The position of the nodes would say it's not as important as you think it is, because everything is supposed to be coming inwards with this energy of Pisces. You know, what Pisces understands really well is that everything is a fucking illusion. So we have this lunar eclipse happening on the 14th, and that is the thing that is going to, catapult us into really, really strange energy. But if you're sensitive, you probably feel this building already, right? Because the energy builds in the week or so beforehand. And then immediately after, on the 15th, we're going to have Mercury stationing retrograde, ready to start its retrograde through the sign of Aries and back into Pisces. And what do we understand about the energy of a Mercury retrograde, right? Miscommunication is entirely possible. Misunderstandings are entirely possible. Travel is affected. Computing and, anything electrical generally is affected too. Well, you combine these two things occurring relatively simultaneously, and then factor in the fact that it's overlapping with a Venus retrograde that we are also having. The capacity for there to be a chaotic sense of crisis going on this week is very, very strong. But then this shows us why the Tower is in reverse, because it's the perception of the Tower. It's almost like there's the spectre of the Tower, the fear of the Tower, rather than the actual presentation of the Tower, is the thing that we are all responding to this week if we allow ourselves to be dragged into things, right? Now, the prevailing energy is this LSD card. It's like you're not seeing the whole picture. You don't see what you think you're seeing. It says that whatever the chaos of the situation might imply is the next step. I really wouldn't invest too much emotionally in the idea that this is definitive and this is actually going to happen. If it's one thing that I've noticed recently that I really abhor, like I really do, I find it obnoxious, is people who speak in absolutes about anything. Now, maybe this is my Mars in Libra speaking. That's possible. But I do think on my progress chart, I'm actually currently a Libra Sun and a Libra Mercury, right? So this might be a thing that is affecting it. But we've already seen with that sword on its side that there is no absolute truth in emergence, right? We're not seeing the light of truth actually covering anything right now. And it doesn't matter what side of the debate or what side of the divide you happen to find yourself on. Nothing is clear. There aren't outright lies being spoken overall, but there's certainly nothing even approaching the truth coming to the surface yet. And if the dominant energy of this week is designed to make you fear the spectre of the tower, then again, the evidence suggests that I'm seeing here, it is much more about choosing to put your focus somewhere else. Don't get swept up in it. We've got this Two of Pentacles here, which is my card of coping, right? It's a card of kind of getting your hands into something. It's about duty and it's about responsibility. And it does imply that there are things that are emotionally troublesome in the background. But he's got his back to them. And I think this energy of chopping wood and carrying water, rather than trying to work out what it is that you've got to leave behind under this energy. I mean, this will all become clearer over hopefully the next few weeks, but maybe it might take a few months to work its way out. It's like, know where the value is, and the value is in your attention. So if something's troubling you emotionally and it is not right here in your house, it doesn't have to be dealt with right now. It particularly doesn't have to be dealt with when we've got the energy of this over the top of it. We've got, the fear of the tower, the spectre of the tower, shining a light on things as well. But also, let's not forget we have the Seven of Swords. Now, I did say that I didn't think that, there were active lies being told. And I think maybe that isn't entirely true. Actually, maybe there might be. But just as in this moment, looking at the Seven of Swords, we can't really ascertain what the motive for that is. I would say the same is true as to what is going on the world stage right now. There may be very noble intentions as to what is being done under the table, if you will, but there might not. It's actually impossible to see from here. We are lacking context. We're lacking context. We cannot see the bigger picture of what's going on. Can we get comfortable with saying I don't know? That I'm actually going to reserve judgment. I'm going to reserve my emotional investment until there are actually some facts on the table, rather than subjective interpretations of what everything is. We don't. The card underneath the Seven of Swords is actually the Eight of Swords. What we really don't want to do is think ourselves into a corner where we feel trapped, stuck, imperiled. It's another card, feeling imperiled by the situation. We need to remain calm. We need to remain logical. We need to put our attention where it is valuable for us to do so. The Eight of Cups says we can't walk away from something yet because we don't actually have all of the information. We don't know what is worth preserving and what is worth casting aside. Under the light of the eclipse, everything is very distorted. Everything is very foggy. We have to be patient and allow these things to play out. The Queen of Pentacles, as she is here, is an exemplary example of what it is to be patient. Represents the sign of Capricorn, right? So too does the Two of Pentacles. These are both Capricorn cards. Long-term game. This is about pacing yourself. It is a marathon, not a sprint. And so these kind of practices that we're talking about putting in place at the moment, right, where you're very, very sharp about where your attention is going. And very, very good at creating boundaries around your peace. Being skill set that you need for the rest of the year. Now, we have the Queen of Cups here, and she helps us understand what we actually feel. She does many other things besides. But I think it's very, very difficult to understand how you feel when your nervous system is being spiked all the time by things that are designed to harvest your attention and harvest your emotional energy. So like the Queen of Cups, we bring everything back to ourselves and we process by sifting out, what it is that we've been told to be afraid of versus what we can actually touch, taste, hear, smell, engage with. Because the King of Wands is saying this is a really good time for you to get busy with something that isn't online. Whatever that is, just do not be online any more than you need to. With that Queen of Cups and the King of Wands, please. Why are these here? Nine of Swords. Let's ask if there's anything else that we need to know between these two cards, please. What do we need to know? Right, yeah, Temperance on its side. Umenost. Be very clear about this. The media, social media platforms, the news, not one of these organisations, not one of these platforms, not one of these entities give a flying fuck about your mental health. Neither do they give a flying fuck about your emotional or your spiritual health, even your physical health, let's be honest. Because bad news sells newspapers. That's what we used to say, right? Back in the day when newspapers were a thing. But now we got, the ubiquitous existential crisis rectangle, right? Which is plugging us into every development. The opportunity for your nervous system to be spiked again and again and again and again. So you are in a constant state of fight or flight. Giving them the clicks, giving them the attention is what they want from you. We have the devil at the bottom of the deck, right? It's the illusion. There's a lot here that's talking about illusion. Cultivating fear. We have the Nine of Swords, which is a complete loss of perspective. And just in the cases, as in the case of the other nines, we've got this is down to you to manage. Because these people will not help you. These platforms will not help you. These entities will not help you reclaim your perspective. Then we have the Temperance card on its side. Right? It's an exhortation for moderation in terms of what you are consuming subconsciously from what you are exposing yourself to. And then we have the Page of Pentacles. It's like where your value is, the things that actually should have value, you're trying that, what's working on you here is an attempt to take that away from you, right? We've got these two cards here saying, look, be very, very careful about where you put your attention. And then we've got these cards saying, you play the game that they are trying to get you to play. This will be the end result. What is better for you is that you begin a process of understanding how you actually feel by dealing with what is actually in front of you. This is what the King of Wands does. And get very busy about the business of living your life rather than waiting for the next fucking crisis to happen. All of this will blow over in time. But I'm concerned about the state that people are going to be in by the time we reach completion here. It's very, very important that you hitch up your chariot that you are led by you in a direction that is of your choosing, not that has been influenced by bad actors who are seeking to harvest everything from you. If you're artsy and crafty, this would be a good week to do that. If you're not, but you like gardening, get out into the garden, start digging something over, start planting some stuff. If you're neither of those things, just find something to keep your hands busy, because that, and make sure that you are not listening to the news or listening to the latest opinion piece by somebody, right? Because this is the intensity is such right now. Everybody's got a point where they can't take any more, and I think a lot of people are somewhat close to that. The devil will find work for idle hands, but I mean, realistically, the saying should be the devil will find work for idle brains. It's this, everything is illusory this week, and the less you participate in it, the saner and more balanced you are going to feel by the end of the week. I think it's distinctly likely that from the lunar eclipse right through to the end of the month, it is going to feel a little bit like you're on some sort of acid trip. Right? It's going to be that level of surreal. And this is not one of those situations where we, lean back, listen to Led Zeppelin, and just, hope that everything will be okay. Tool. I really recommend Tool. Because this has almost been imposed upon us. This week it's about remaining focused, maintaining focus on what is actually real. What can you put your hands on? What can you entertain yourself with? And this is coming from somebody who makes their living online, right? Like, I'm telling you, get fuck offline as much as possible. Give yourself a little detox. Because I think you'll be really, really glad that you did. Right, fuck me, I've been prattling on for ages, so I'm going to go. One must away to the supermarket to go do one's grocery shopping. So, I hope you've had a not too awful week. I hope that next week you can find plenty to occupy you that is not online. And I'll see you next week.